System's rigged. It's all rigged. It's not. People think it is. So, what has Vegas done? They're one of the final four. The NHL's rigged it. These guys don't deserve it. They kind of do, and I can kind of understand where people are coming from. The one number we need to all understand, okay, right up front, is Vegas paid $500 million. That's $500 million to have a team. You're not going to take $500 million and then give them a crappy team. And bad news for NHL fans everywhere, the asking price for Seattle is going to be $650 million. So if you think you're mad at Vegas now, hold that rage. You may need it in a couple of years when Seattle's a pretty damn good team too. And the fact I cheer for the Canucks who play in the Pacific Division, I could be really angry because I'd have two teams in the same division as the Canucks that the Canucks just can't get past. But really what you have to look at is you have to start with the expansion draft. So teams could either protect 8 skaters and 1 goalie or 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie. And they had to meet certain requirements of players with games played the previous season in the NHL so that they weren't just offering up a bunch of AHL fodder and nobody. Back in 2000, the last time they did an expansion draft, which was 2 teams, and that makes a huge difference because Minnesota and Columbus didn't exactly sit together and go, okay, who are you taking? Here's who we're taking. There's a little more in play there, and the teams could protect 9 forwards, 5 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 2 goalies. That should be 2. Yeah. Or 2. 7, 3, and 2, or 9, 5, and 1. A little different than 7, 3, and 1, or 8 and 1. So, Columbus and Minnesota collectively were grabbing from a less talented pool than Vegas to start with. Absolutely agree, 100%. And what that set up is some crazy, insane deals. And have I said they were crazy? After the expansion draft, they got a 5th rounder in 2019 from Montreal for David Schlemko. Schlemko wasn't going to play for Vegas anyways. You tell me if Vegas had got Schlemko at the deadline, who he's pushing out of that top 6. Nobody. They trade Trevor Van Riemsdyk and a 2018 7th round pick to Carolina for a 2017 2nd round pick. Win for Vegas. Then with Tampa, they picked up a 2017 2nd rounder, a 2018 4th rounder, the rights to Nikita Gusev for the fact they select Jason Garrison. Now, Gusev, you ask anybody who's a KHL fan, they'll tell you he's a pretty darn good player. Okay. So they got 3 pieces for selecting one that they didn't even use. Garrison spent most of the season in the minors. He's buried. Alex Tuck and a 2017 or 2018 3rd round draft pick from Minnesota in agreement that they'll select Eric Howla instead of Matt Dumba. So I'm going to go ahead and not throw Minnesota under the bus too much on this one because Matt Dumba's a pretty solid defenseman, and if he was in Vegas, I think they'd be in the same position they are right now. Take out Howla, you put in Dumba instead, I think they're still a top 4 team. Or final 4 team. But think about what Tuck and Howla have meant to this team, and it's crazy. So we've already added players, and it's multiple players coming from the same teams. Riley Smith was traded to Vegas for a 4th rounder this year, in exchange for them selecting Jonathan Marchessault. Yeah. So because Florida wanted to get rid of the Riley Smith contract and they didn't really want to pay Jonathan Marchessault, they sent them both away for a 4th round draft pick. And you wonder why Florida struggled and missed the playoffs this year. They barely missed. If you add Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault to that lineup, they make the playoffs. And I know Smith had a poor year last year, but that's insanity. Absolute, complete, sheer insanity. I'm not going to pick on Florida fans any further than that. They get a 5th round draft pick from Carolina in agreement for selecting Connor Brickley, who left as a free agent on July 1st. They got a 5th round draft pick for a guy that they weren't going to use anyways. They get a 2017 6th round draft pick from Buffalo in agreement for picking up William Carrier, who, honestly, George McPhee may very well have decided in the beginning he wanted Carrier anyways. Clearly, this team was designed with a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th line, top 6 defensemen. He had a whole hierarchy planned out, and Carrier may very well have been on that list. and you look at that hard-nosed play that Carrier has brought to them. Sorry, my bank was calling me for some reason. Anyways, so Carrier, that makes sense to pick up Carrier, and Buffalo gets back the loss of a 6th-round draft pick in William Carrier, who they might have wanted in their bottom 6 this year. Just throwing that out there. The big one is this. Expansive draft considerations going to Columbus. They gave up David Clarkson, that contract they wanted to get rid of. 2019 2nd-round draft pick, a 2017 1st-round draft pick, and those considerations were William Karlsson. So don't take any of the players we want to keep. Take William Karlsson. Take this David Clarkson contract. Oh, and by the way, we're throwing in a 1st-rounder, and here's a 2nd-rounder in 3 years, or 2 years. Expansion considerations from Pittsburgh. They pick up a 2020 2nd-round draft pick, and the expansion considerations were, can you take Marc-Andre Fleury? And I'm sure George McPhee was like, okay. All right. You're giving us a 2nd-round draft pick in exchange for picking up a starting goaltender. Okay. Then they trade the Columbus draft pick that they picked up to Winnipeg for a 2017 1st-round draft pick and a 2019 3rd-round draft pick. There's a definite pattern here. They get expansion considerations from Anaheim. Okay, so they say, all right, we won't pick the guy that you want us to stay away from. We'll take Shea Theodore, and we'll pick up the dead contract to Clayton Stoner. Stoner, not an impact, nothing. Shea Theodore, pretty darn decent defenseman for Vegas right now, isn't he? They go ahead with the expansion draft considerations again with the Islanders. They pick up Jean-Francois Berube from the Islanders, who they didn't bother with, and he signed with Chicago, and he was nothing. They get Jake Bischoff, Mikhail Grabovski, who didn't play, 2017 1st-round draft pick, and a 2019 2nd-round draft pick. Here's the thing with Vegas. So everybody right now is saying, well, they can't keep this up. They're setting the bar too high. They absolutely can keep this up. They picked up experienced young players. They picked up tons of draft picks. And anybody they got that was old or kind of broken is gone. Or it's dead weight contracts on their cap that is going to come off either this summer or next summer. It's insane. And again, the Islanders, they wanted to get rid of Grabowski's contract. Well, okay, done. They pick up Dylan Ferguson and a 2020 2nd-round draft pick from Dallas. Dallas had just drafted Dylan Ferguson. And I have to say, I think Ferguson's going to be a decent goaltender, and that was for Mark Methought. Nobody had any way of knowing that Mark Methought would have the injury-riddled season he did. But right now, honestly, Vegas looks pretty smart getting that 2020 2nd-round draft pick and Ferguson. They pick up a 2019 3rd-round draft pick for Alexei Emmalin from Nashville. Nashville's been happy, I think, with Emmalin to this point. Emmalin's a 5 or 6 guy. But when you consider he's a 5 or 6 guy, they got a 3rd-round draft pick in a couple years. That could be a half-decent draft pick. I think I read the odds of a 2nd-rounder making the NHL is a little above 40%, and the odds of a 3rd-rounder making the NHL is around 35%. So you're likely picking up a player with all of these trades. Marcus Kruger goes to Carolina. They pick up a 5th-round draft pick. Of course, they got Kruger for considerations from Chicago. Calvin Pickard goes to Toronto for Tobias Lindbergh and a 6th-round draft pick. Lindbergh didn't stay as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. He's traded to Pittsburgh for Ryan Reeves and a 4th-round draft pick. And when Carrier, this guy got hurt, Reeves steps in and played pretty darn well in a game that they needed to win to eliminate the San Jose Sharks. Now, I'm not even into their expansion draft picks. I don't even know if I need to, because we've been over this. Look at what George McPhee was able to do. Now, we can argue that this is because the NHL made it so that only this number of players were protected. But GMs went way over. Take our draft picks. Go ahead, take our draft picks. Take these players. And for some reason, the players that they told Vegas to take in every case were either hits or guys they could bury. Or just not sign. They didn't sign Brickley. They didn't sign Berube. Stoner, IR the whole year. Garrison, he's buried in the minors. Howla, 29 goals? Carrier, fantastic fourth line. Karlsson, 40 goals plus. Marc-Andre Fleury, great season. People talked about him for the Vezina, and, yeah. These are the ones the team said, please take these guys instead of what you're looking at. So this is why when people say, well, this won't happen again, the one trade that looks like maybe it won't happen again is Thomas Tatar being traded to Vegas for a first rounder this spring, a second rounder next spring, and then a third in 2021. Maybe one of two things. Either George McPhee used up all of his freebies with GMs and now he's got to pay through the nose, or he's got a ton of draft picks. A heaping truckload of draft picks. And he's already got some really solid young prospects, whether it's Suzuki or Glass or Brunstrom. It doesn't matter. These guys are all really solid. And Vegas has a lot of good young talent. So when I hear people say, well, this was rigged, not really. That $500 million, you kind of got to give them access to good players. Then when they had access to good players, GMs went out of their way to spend way too much to protect the guys they had. Now, I'm fine with Minnesota giving up Howla and Tuck and a draft pick so that they can keep Dumba. But if you offer Dumba right now to Vegas in exchange for Eric Howla, Alex Tuck, and that draft pick, does McPhee take it, or does McPhee say, we don't really want to trade a 30-goal scorer? We like Dumba. He's a good top-four defenseman, and he's capable of putting up 50 points, which is rare, but we don't think we want to give up these two young forwards. They got a young team. They got a talented team. Yes, they got something that Minnesota or Columbus couldn't get, and no other expansion team before could get. But we're in a whole new age where an expansion team costs $500 million, and the next one will cost more than that. This is a whole new world. The idea that somehow Vegas got by easy, it's easy for the fans, other than the fact that they pay pretty high a price for tickets. It's easy for the players, other than the fact that they were expected to suck this year on an expansion team, and they were probably quite angry at being exposed. And in the case of Howla, Carlson, Fleury, and Marchessault, these guys have got to be saying, oh, really? And Riley Smith too, I would think. You want to discard us. You want to discard us after what we've done for your team. And you want to treat us, we're expansion fodder? Oh, I don't think so. And there's a lot of that in Vegas' play. And Vegas has a great team. They really do. And whether they win in the next round or they lose in the next round, they've already set that bar pretty high. The thing is, no, there's no guarantee they'll be back next year. But there's no guarantee they won't. When Florida got to the Stanley Cup final in 96, that was with the whole rat trick. Scott Mellenby, look it up. And it's kind of a fun story. If you guys want me to do a video about the rat trick, I have no problem doing that. But really, honestly, we all knew in 96 that Florida had that one run and that the odds of them going on another one were pretty slim. This team has a much better team than that 96 Florida Panthers did. That Florida Panthers team was full of veterans and grizzled warriors who had seen their best days, and they were just working so damn hard to get to that final when they met up with the Colorado Avalanche, who basically went, yeah, no, this is ours, and they swept them. Vegas has already proven me wrong in the playoffs by beating LA. I picked them to knock out San Jose because they weren't going to prove me wrong again. There were already people saying, well, it's rigged, they don't belong here, they don't deserve it. But these players do. Stop seeing the jersey and look at the players. Look at some of these guys who were discarded by teams, not wanted, and the fire that's in their eyes when they play. Look at the celebrations when they score goals. Look at that weight of the world that's still on their shoulders, and will be there right up till the final if they make it that far. It's the best story in hockey. It's going to be a movie, so deal with that, because it's going to happen. There's no way that Hollywood isn't salivating over this storyline, saying, oh man, Brad Pitt has to be George McPhee. That's where we're going to be. And they can't wait to cast guys like Marc-Andre Fleury and William Karlsson and Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith, because all of them are underdog stories. So there's a very, very vocal part of this channel that's so pro-Vegas, and you guys are awesome, and you guys have really been a part of this channel exploding this year. And I admit that. I had to get Vegas jerseys because I understood I had a lot of fans in Vegas. There are also a lot of people that are very angry about this setup. Don't be angry at the Knights. Don't be angry at George McPhee for looking at the hand he's dealt and going, holy crap, I got a royal flush in my first hand. This is what the NHL gave him because this is what the NHL got. They could not justify giving Vegas a crap team for $500 million. And not only that, but it really doesn't help your league. Look at the expansion teams and how long it takes to get to be any good. And it just doesn't work. Look at Atlanta. They never turned it around. San Jose took about a half a decade. Tampa took quite a while too. Ottawa, how many years of crap did they have to deal with in Ottawa? Columbus still hasn't made it past the first round. And Minnesota still waiting to get back to a conference final. They've only been to once. They didn't want to go through that again. They didn't want to go through it again. Even Nashville. Nashville last year goes to the final, but before that, mild success at best in the playoffs. They wanted to make sure this team was built to succeed. And not in 5 years or 10 years. And not after they've sucked for a while, but now. I really admire what this team has done. And again, if you expect Seattle to be worse, remember, if Matt Dumba's exposed next time, and if Minnesota's GM says, well, we're not making a deal, then Matt Dumba's gone off the Minnesota Wild, and I'm just using him as an example. But all of those players that we salivated over when we saw them exposed in the last expansion draft would now get picked. All of those star players. So the Seattle GM can pick up all of these star players and turn them into draft picks and younger players. Turn them into 3 or 4 guys. And before you know it, Seattle, whether they're called the Kraken, the Emeralds, the Totems, probably the Totems, they could have a better team than Vegas. Because for $650 million, they're not going to give them a worse one. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I know this is a topic that's both very popular and very unpopular, and I expect it to have both reactions in the comment section. But honestly, I don't have a problem with what Vegas has done this year. Am I cheering for them right now? I don't know. It's hard because, I'm not going to just jump on their bandwagon. It's a great story though. And honestly, as a guy with a channel, the longer this story goes, the better it works for this channel. But just from a storyline perspective, what an amazing story. And it's a story that I don't think ends with this playoff run. I think it's got quite a bit left in it. And with the way that George McPhee built up the prospect pool and has drafted a very young team, there's no reason to think that it can't continue for quite a while, as long as it's run properly. But that's the best problem that he can have as a GM, is going, wow, I've had too much success. Kudos to him, kudos to Vegas, and hey, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.